Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Taylor and this is my husband Drew. And on this channel, we talk about life and relationships after leaving the church and do some commentary on the goings on in evangelical Christianity. So in my last video, I called out Girls Gone Bible. I had on someone named Jenny Neiman, who's also spoken about Girls Gone Bible on TikTok. And she and I had a long interview conversation about a lot of allegations that Girls Gone Bible is facing right now. And I think I should just recap those allegations because Girls Gone Bible fans that are watching my video are obviously like not making it past like the first 5 minutes of it because they're not talking about any of the allegations. So the first one is this video of Angela. It looks like she's under the influence in the video and she's on the ground kind of provocatively. There's girls in the background that are twerking and that kind of thing. And this video was allegedly taken at the same time as or around the same time they first started Girls Gone Bible.
She's wearing the same outfit and jewelry that she is in the first Girls Gone Bible episode.
Yeah, if you compare her outfit, her jewelry, her makeup, her hair are exactly the same in the video as their first episode of Girls Gone Bible. So it seems like she filmed these two videos probably on the same day.
Yeah.
And why this is significant is because Angela has claimed in numerous videos on Girls Gone Bible, like even in their first video, that she's been sober for like 5 or 6 years. And in the video, it appears like she's not.
Yeah, it really appears that way.
Everything you got for some... Oh, guys, come on. Come on. I've changed my tune on here. I don't do this type... No, I don't do this type of stuff anymore. I have a religious podcast. Whoa, Rika. Rika.
Enjoy it, you know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
The second allegation is that both Angela and Ari were apparently working as poker girls at the same time as running their Christian podcast. And if you guys were unfamiliar with poker girls, basically they're women that are hired to go to these poker clubs in like Hollywood and LA and be on the arms of these like very rich, affluent men. And a lot of the time there is some sort of sexual favors that are involved in that. And this allegation is coming from somebody that used to work with them, allegedly. And she's saying that they were doing this at the same time as starting their Christian podcast where they talk about modesty and purity and sobriety and, you know, not having sex before marriage and saving yourself and that kind of thing.
And they're saying in the podcast that they do all those things.
Yeah. The third allegation is numerous stories that Jenny has received from past fans of Girls Gone Bible. There's one woman who's claiming that she got close to specifically Angela, and she kind of opened up to Angela about her struggles with sobriety and I think self-harm. And Angela then apparently took this information because I guess they both went to the same church. And she took this information to their pastor at their church without the girl's knowledge or consent. And when the girl asked her about this or called her out for it, Angela blocked her. The second story, I think, is a similar one where a girl started getting close to Angela and Ari, and she was struggling with sobriety, and she opened up to Angela about that. And then she found out that maybe it's not the case, that Angela has been sober. And when she confronted Angela with that information, Angela, I guess, blocked her and then went to that girl's parole officer because I guess she had gotten in trouble in the past for some stuff. And so she had a parole officer. And Angela went to her parole officer and basically lied and said that this girl had slipped up so that she would get her in trouble.
Yeah.
And then, you know, blocked this girl. And then there's a third story of a woman who was going to this church called Mosaic in, I think, Hollywood, and Angela and Ari were going to that church too. Unfortunately, very sadly, this girl was sexually harassed by one of the pastors there. I'm not completely clear on the details, but apparently this pastor made sexual advances to this girl. And this pastor had also worked with Girls Gone Bible on their podcast. They had collaborated in the past. And so this girl who knew Angela and Ari and was close to them went to them and said, hey, this pastor did this to me, and I would like prefer you guys not work with this pastor. Can you take your episode down that you filmed with him? And apparently they were very empathetic with this girl and said, I'm so sorry this happened to you. But then they never took down the episode and just, I think, ghosted the girl and never got back to her. And yeah.
I mean, didn't like try to seek justice for
didn't do anything about it.
Victim of at least alleged sexual assault.
They just acted like, oh yeah, we sympathize with you, but then they like never really did anything about it.
Yeah, I'm sure Jesus would love that one.
And now this is new information. There's a fourth story of another girl who approached Jenny, I think, after her and I filmed our video together. She also became a fan of Girls Gone Bible, got close to Angela and Ari, and I guess, again, very sadly, this girl had lost her mother, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah, this girl had lost her mother a year prior. And both Angela and Ari told this girl that she was idolizing her mom's death.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And also they started getting on her case for not dressing modestly. And like shamed her and made her feel really bad about it. And this girl has since made a TikTok. I'm not sure if it's still out there or not. But after she made her TikTok, both Angela and Ari blocked her.
Yeah.
So there's this repeated pattern of fans getting close to Angela and Ari, and as soon as they start asking them questions or have any pushback on anything, suddenly they like just block them.
Yeah, I mean, and some of this is related to like alleged criminal behavior on actual pastors' parts and potentially on their part too.
Yeah.
And they are not taking this seriously.
Yes, I mean, these are very serious allegations.
Yeah.
So Girls Gone Bible has actually, I should mention one more thing. They also opened for a Trump rally the night before Trump's inauguration.
Yeah.
And it was like his victory rally or something, which is also clearly problematic.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that they claim that they're apolitical and that they don't really care about politics, the only rallies they've ever attended or opened for or been involved in any type of way has just happened to be Trump.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of allegations and problematic things that are going on with Girls Gone Bible, and they recently addressed the allegations, meaning that they addressed the video and the video alone. They didn't address the allegations of them being poker girls at the same time as running Girls Gone Bible. They didn't address the fact that there's multiple women, at least 4 now, that have shared these bad experiences that they've had with Girls Gone Bible.
Yeah.
Didn't address any of that. And the way that they address the whole video situation, it actually makes things even more confusing and potentially worse. So today I thought we would check out the video in which they're addressing the video that Angela is supposedly drunk in. So we're gonna...
Hooray.
Like, another thing of like why I'm going back and like readdressing all of this is because they're all okay. Girls Gone Bible's fans are like coming over to my channel in droves. Now it's their comments aren't just limited to that one video. They're commenting across my channel.
Yeah.
And all of their comments are just saying that we're shaming them and judging Angela and Ari for their past. And it's just like, I left the church. I'm an ex-Christian. I don't think that like Angela being drunk or being provocative or filming a little tipsy video is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the issue I have. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the hypocrisy of it.
Yeah, I mean, and lying and using power dynamics to kind of manipulate their fans.
Yeah.
And also delivering them into the hands of alleged abusive men.
And like just not caring.
Yeah, not caring about their fans being abused. That's
the problem. And like, none of their fans are addressing any of like the women's stories or anything. They're just saying that we're shaming them and that Jenny and I are jealous.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually, when I filmed my interview with Jenny in the very beginning, I talked to Jenny because she had made a TikTok about Girls Gone Bible, but she had to take the TikTok down because their fans were just like vicious and like really mean in the comments, and she was basically getting bullied. So she ended up taking it down. So I talked to her about that, and I told Jenny, like, yeah, anytime Girls Gone Bible or Ashley Hetherington or Ali Yost fans come over to my channel, the first thing, like, all of them comment that I'm just jealous.
Yeah.
That's the immediate thing. And like, unfortunately, I cut that part of the interview out just because like the whole video was getting like way too long. But what is the immediate thing that Girls Gone Bible's fans do? They come over and tell me that I'm just jealous.
Yeah. But here's the thing, guys. If you guys are like really Christian, take it from people who were Christian for like over 20 years. We know how to do Christianity. Materialism, being jealous of someone for their wealth or their looks, is actually a very non-Christian thing, like anti-Christian thing. Like, you should not be thinking like, you know what? Within the Christian paradigm, these women are to be idolized and praised, and we should be jealous of them, and we should desire all the things that they have. That is, within the Christian paradigm, idolatrous, which, is kind of the ultimate sin in Christianity is idolatry. So it's like, I don't know, you thinking that ultimately what is driving everybody's ideas and what would drive your ideas if you were in our situation, being jealousy over material things, is like, shows that you're not really thinking in a very Christian way. I don't really think that their audience is super like Christian-y. I think that they're just like...
I think they're like into influencer Christianity.
Yeah, I think they like influencers.
Yeah. I mean, well, now some of their fans are, because like obviously they're not familiar with my channel. They haven't watched my other videos. They've only seen either this one video or videos I've made in the past about Girls Gone Bible or Ashley Hetherington or Ali Yost. And they're just now finding out that I'm an ex-Christian. Like, they're commenting saying like, oh, guys, like, she's an ex-Christian. Like, so that means we can automatically just discount everything she says because she's working for the devil, which, yeah. But, but like, it's just, like, you guys are not actually addressing anything that we said. I'm getting ahead of myself, but it's just like insane how their fans are just like completely disregarding like real legitimate cases of emotional or sexual abuse, and they just like don't care. Anyways, all right. Let's actually start.
Hi, I'm Ange. I'm Ari, and this is Girls Gone Bible. We talk everything Jesus. We love him from the bottom of our heart. He's everything to us. We talk everything from spirituality to mental health to relationships to brokenness. And we're just here as two imperfect girls. We're just here as two imperfect girls that serve a perfect God. We love him so much, and we love you guys too. Hi, guys. So... today is a lot. Today is a tough day. Today, Ari and
Do you mind if I put this on like 1.25 speed? Because they talk so slow.
Yeah.
I are here to talk about just some things of the past. We're here to address some things. And we're just going to go straight into it. No fluff. This episode is an episode of responsibility and transparency. And that's what we've come to do. We have a responsibility to you guys, and we have a responsibility to God, and we so honor what God has given us. And I'm like obviously so emotional. I'm like, it's better if I just say it. This is how I get. Sometimes I like can't get through talking, but
I mean, I appreciate the fact that they're wanting to be transparent and honest.
Well, they're saying there.
But like, if you actually wanted to be transparent and honest, you would address all of the allegations. You wouldn't just like pick one.
As we will see, they're not gonna
address.
There is a video, and it is from a couple years ago, and it's like circulating around, and it's not great. And when something like this happens, it's obviously incredibly exposing and incredibly vulnerable. And again, we just have a responsibility as a leader, and like coming on this podcast and having so many people who have been with us from the very beginning to just give an explanation. So basically, there's this video, and it's not great. I am acting provocatively, and And I even mention having a Bible podcast or having a religious podcast, and I kind of like make a joke about it. I just want to give clarity to the context and the timeline of this video. So I mention in the video that I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I can't act like this because I have a religious podcast. And I just want to say that that video was taken before Girls Gone Bible was even created. It was when Ari and I were like kind of in talks, making videos, like, let's do a podcast. Let's talk about God. Let's tell people what Jesus did in my life. But there was no actual Girls Gone Bible yet. And so I think one of the reasons why I want to mention that is because I think it's so important for people to know our process in Girls Gone Bible. And I know that we're so open already, but I think it's, important and necessary for us to say one more time, like, the sanctification was not immediate in either of our journeys. And what is important to me to mention is, like, when you and I started Girls Gone Bible, you look at the first 3 episodes and they're just all over the place. We're flailing our arms, saying things that really aren't biblically accurate, making mistakes, saying things that are worldly opinions. And then it's really not until the 4th episode, it was the betrayal and forgiveness episode, that you and I, something switched. There was a shift that happened. You and I realized, we just realized what it was. The fear of God said it.
I think it's important to say that while she's saying that this video was taken before Girls Gone Bible ever really started, she was wearing the exact same thing. She looked exactly the same as in the first episode of Girls Gone Bible. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, could she have done her makeup and jewelry and hair and everything exactly the same way? She could have, but I don't know. Just saying, oh no, this happened before Girls Gone Bible when she has the exact same look in that video as the first episode, that seems a little bit dubious to me.
Yeah, and definitely considering that these allegations are coming from someone who apparently worked with Angela and Ari.
Yeah.
And is saying, no, they filmed this when they started, when they were doing Girls Gone Bible.
Yeah.
And I feel like Angela's being kind of purposely vague here, because she's like, oh, this was before we started Girls Gone Bible, but we were in talks to do the podcast. She also says we had filmed some videos. I don't know if you caught that or not.
Oh.
She's like, we were filming videos, implying that maybe it wasn't the case that they had uploaded these videos to YouTube yet, but they were in the process of making it.
It was when Ari and I were kind of in talks, making videos.
And she's also saying that in the video, she says, I can't be doing this. I can't be provocative or tipsy or whatever because I have a religious podcast. And she's saying here that was just a joke.
What's the joke?
Yeah, that's my thing. What are you joking about? What's the joke? That you have a podcast that you don't have? How is that funny?
I mean,
all.
she does laugh in the video, but I mean, I'm sorry, but it's really, really obvious that she's drunk. I mean, incredibly obvious.
Say that for sure. I mean, we weren't there with a breathalyzer or something.
Yeah, when someone laughs like that, it's because they're drunk.
She's slurring her words.
I am alleging that was obviously drunk.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know that they have a lot of kids that watch their podcast that might not know what a person acts like when they're drunk, but that's how a person acts when they're drunk.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing is that it seems like a majority of Girls Gone Bible's fan base are young women, meaning teenagers.
Yeah.
Teenager and college students. But I've been thinking a lot about this because I'm just why would you joke about that? What's the context of that? What is the joke that there is in that? And let's say that she was making a joke. So, doesn't that make it almost kind of worse? Because you're I'm doing these things that I know I shouldn't be doing, but I can't do this because I have a religious podcast. That almost makes it seem like you knew that this was kind of a grift, or you were not really that serious about the Christian aspect or about the faith aspect of it. And you were doing it because you knew it was going to make you money. That kind of makes it seem more like that.
Yeah.
Because you're joking about it. You're making light of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, my ultimate thing I come down to is, what's the joke? You say that there's a joke, which is a lot of the time people say that when something is kind of ambiguous or they want to insert ambiguity into something.
Mm-hmm.
XQC is oh, I told Ethan Klein that I had his whole house on my wrist, even though I knew his house cost a lot more than my watch because it was a joke. But it's obvious he was just He's just saying that to insert in ambiguity when clearly he looked like a moron.
Yeah.
And like clearly this was an incriminating video, and she says what I said was a joke. It's just to insert ambiguity. It's just a tactic to just get away.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that like the two different options are she's lying about being a joke. Like she knew that she did have a religious podcast at the time and that she shouldn't be doing that. Or the other option is she didn't have a religious podcast and was just kind of like thinking about having it, but was joking about the fact that like, oh, isn't this so funny? I'm sitting here like twerking and like acting provocatively and like getting tipsy, but I'm also going to do a religious podcast. Like either way, it like does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you know
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
she's
no
not.
matter what, it, like this doesn't make it better. Like it makes it look way worse.
Yeah. And again, we don't think it's a problem if she's like drunk in the video, or if she or her friends are twerking, or if she's whatever provocative even means. Like
Yeah.
we don't care. Like we don't think that that's wrong. We don't believe that that is a wrong
Yeah.
thing to do. There's nothing morally problematic about it. The morally problematic thing is telling other people that they can't do this and that you are not doing this and they should listen to you and follow your lead. And then you're still doing it, and it comes out that you're still doing it, and then you lie or try to like just be like, oh well, you know, it wasn't really as big of a deal as everyone's making it out to be.
Yeah, it's the
That's the problem.
hypocrisy of it.
Yeah.
It's the fact. It's not the fact that you did it. It's the fact that you have a Christian podcast where you're telling other women, you're preaching in your podcast that other women shouldn't do these things, but then meanwhile you're still doing it.
Yeah.
You know, that's the issue. Hey guys, editing Taylor here. So I have some updates for you all on this situation. Drew and I literally just filmed this video like 2 nights ago, and within the span of like 24 hours, there's been even more developments to this whole situation. So you guys will remember from my last video, I interviewed Jenny Neiman. Well, Jenny's been in contact with a girl who I'm going to keep her anonymous, even though I'm pretty sure she's okay with her name being out there, but just I haven't been in direct contact with her. So out of an abundance of caution, I'm not going to say her name. But Jenny has been in contact with a girl who is alleging that she worked with both Angela and Ari in the poker club. And this girl has either, I'm not sure if she contacted Jenny first or Jenny contacted her or how that worked out. But she's basically saying that everything that Angela said in their response to the whole video situation is a lie, and that she has evidence to prove that. She told Jenny that the video of her and someone named Rika and Ariel was taken on April 12th, and that the first episode of Girls Gone Bible was uploaded to YouTube on May 10th. So it does appear as though the video was taken before they first uploaded to Girls Gone Bible. That being said, that's when they first uploaded to, well, not even first uploaded. That's when the video went live. That's not necessarily the day that they filmed that video. And I know from my past experience starting a YouTube channel, it's usually the case that you're starting to work on the channel itself like a month or months prior to your first video going live. In a lot of cases, you'll have multiple videos filmed and ready to go so that when you start your channel, you have a backlog of content to upload. So, in my personal opinion, and this is only my opinion, I'm pretty sure that they filmed the first episode of Girls Gone Bible the same day that that video was taken, given the fact that Angela is wearing the exact same outfit. And not only that, her hair's done the exact same way. She's wearing the exact same jewelry, and her makeup is done in the exact same way. So that leads me to believe that that video was taken at the same time they were filming for Girls Gone Bible. And Angela, in this response video herself, which apparently their fans are completely missing, she admits that they were in talking about and planning for Girls Gone Bible, and that they were even filming. So yeah, they were definitely filming episodes of Girls Gone Bible around the time that this video was taken. But even if we, just for the sake of argument, say that they filmed this video the day before they uploaded it and made it live on YouTube, that's still, you're still saying that less than a month prior, you were in a club with, filming yourself apparently under the influence, allegedly under the influence, and, there's girls twerking in the background, and you're saying less than a month later, you start this podcast where you start this Christian podcast where you're talking about like modesty and purity and all those kind of things. That still doesn't look good. I'm sorry, but like less than a month apart, that still doesn't look good. But anyways, this girl goes on to say, but she uploaded the first episode of Girls Gone Bible on May 10th, and she was still working poker after. She also says, when they started the podcast before it went viral, and they still had to work, they would always do 3-way escort dates. This girl's actually providing even further evidence that they were working in the poker clubs at the same time as doing Girls Gone Bible, because around that time, there was a shooting and a car caught fire, I guess, in the LA area. And this was in the vicinity of the poker club, and there's actually news coverage of this incident. And there are text exchanges between this girl and someone named Angela, who we're alleging is the same Angela from Girls Gone Bible. There's text exchanges between them talking about this incident and talking about whether or not they're gonna come into work at the club. They're saying, I worked at a game last night and I'm so tired. Did you work last night? Yes, babe, I heard stuff happened, like gunshots. Is it true? And further evidence that this was all happening at the same time. In the second episode of Girls Gone Bible, which I think is titled like Spirituality and Demonic Stuff, Drew and I actually responded to this video like a year ago, because they in this video they talk about how they don't watch horror movies because they're demonic, and they specifically talk about The Exorcist, and you guys all know that I like The Exorcist. We actually had on Dr. Joseph Laycock to Drew's channel. He wrote an entire book called The Exorcist Effect that's exploring how horror informs Christians' ideas about demons and Satan and the supernatural. Anyways, yeah, so we responded to that. I was rewatching that episode today, and in that episode, Angela talks about having to go work in Vegas, and she's very vague about what that means.
Yeah, even the clubs, it's dark. Man,
I'm telling you, I had to go to Vegas for a work thing at the end of the last year, and I have to go to Vegas for work sometimes, and I absolutely hate Vegas. You literally walk in there, and I'm like, there's something wrong here. Sorry, not to like SHIT on Vegas, but I had to go out one night. And I don't go to parties. I don't drink. So, like, I'm not, like, what am I going to do at a party?
But in the text exchange between this girl and allegedly Angela talks about the fact that she's in Vegas trying to work. And this was around the same time that they uploaded this episode. So we do have multiple forms of evidence that it is the case that they were working as poker girls while filming Girls Gone Bible. And something that's so frustrating to me is that, you know how I mentioned in the beginning of this video, all of Girls Gone Bible's fans are coming over to my channel and just like absolutely flooding it with negative comments. And they're saying that Jenny and I are just judging Girls Gone Bible for their past, and that we're being jealous, and that we're just trying to shame these women, and they are clear that they're on a journey of transformation and all this kind of stuff. And it's so frustrating because in this second episode of Girls Gone Bible, there is a clip, which I will insert here, of Angela talking about going to Vegas to work. Actually, there's clips of both Angela and Ari. Angela's talking about her time in Vegas working, where she kind of frames it as though she like had to go to a club she didn't want to, but she like had to do this. And then Ari also tells this story of like having to go to a club in Miami, and like they frame it as though this isn't something that they do, is like they don't do this very often, but the circumstances are they just like kind of were forced to go out, and it was horrible. I'll insert those clips here.
Let's talk about going to the club, and I really want you to tell the story about when you were in Miami and what you felt.
Oh yeah, I was telling Angie this. I was in Devil City,
Miami, and Vegas.
You think? Yeah.
Miami, yeah.
It can also be very relaxing, though. So, yeah, I was in Miami with my 22-year-old cousin. She dragged me to Live. For anyone that doesn't know, it's a nightclub.
You went to the club?
Go to the club.
Girls
sipping
Gone
on the
Bible.
Bible.
All right.
So I go in there, and I can't even tell you, I had such spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
I was panicked in there. I mean, so basically when you get really close to God, you can see things that you couldn't see before. And I just saw such darkness.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. I ended up having a complete panic attack, praying in the club, in the middle of the club, just putting my head down. I'm like, Jesus, please get me through this. I ended up leaving right away. But
I had to go out one night. And I don't go to parties. I don't drink. So like I'm not like what am I going to do at a party? I went out. I had to go out, and my spirit was so unbelievably disturbed this night in Vegas that I was sick. I was looking around, and I felt like God had, I don't know, given me different eyes to see things. Like I felt like I saw, it was, this is really bad, but I felt like it was, instead of seeing people, I was seeing like demons everywhere. Like literal demons.
Me
like
too.
People so under the influence, so messed up, like so on so many drugs, people doing all these drugs in front of me. And I'm just sitting there like, and listen, I live in LA. I've grown up. I've lived a lot of different lives. I've seen a lot of stuff. I don't even get affected by that stuff anymore. But like this specific night, I was like, this is so bad. I was looking around being like, yo, Jesus is going to come back and drown you all. Not me though. He's taking me with him. But like, it was really bad.
and you leave feeling so sick. I felt like I had the flu.
I know. Well, yeah, because it's just all that energy. Everyone's so effed up, and like especially when you're drinking and doing drugs and stuff like that, you literally leave yourself completely open to the enemy to come. Like you have no armor whatsoever. Like you may as well invite him in, because that's what you're doing when you black out and you leave your body like that.
What a fucking wild thing to say. You're saying Jesus is going to come back and murder all of you. What? And she says verbatim, she doesn't drink, she doesn't party, and she kind of frames this, her going to Vegas and working, because she says, oh, I had to go to Vegas and work at this club. She frames it as though this is something that was kind of a one-off. She doesn't normally do this kind of things. She thinks going to clubs is demonic. They even talk about how, working in a club, like everyone in there is demonic. Meanwhile, she's actually working as a poker girl in a club, allegedly. And in that episode, they start off by talking about secular music and about how secular music is horrible and demonic and it's not honoring to God and you shouldn't be listening to it. And they say specifically hip hop is bad because in hip hop music, which is like, who calls it like hip hop? Like, really? You sound like you're 90. Anyways, they say like it talks about like drugs and money and hoes, and that's wrong.
Music, TV, media, movies, everything that we take in, there's something called the eye gates and the ear gates, and that's how we take in spiritual stuff, energy, whatever people want to call it. Everything is spiritual. Everything we listen to, everything we watch, everything we read, there's a spirit behind it. There's either going to be the spirit of Christ or there's going to be the spirit of Antichrist. And the thing with secular music is that there is secular music that's like not worship music, that's not necessarily bad for you or demonic, but there's songs that are clearly so unbelievably demonic. If it's simply about money, sex, drugs,
hoes. Sorry.
Hoes,
hey,
violence.
We're not Girls Gone Bible for no reason.
I know, seriously.
All right?
If it's that stuff, like, that's clearly demonic. It's really bad for you to take that stuff in. And I have such an issue with it because I love hip hop. I love that music. Even the music that's not that blatantly demonic, some of it still isn't good for you.
And the rap is so different now than it was back then, like the Tupac and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I will literally feel sick when I will, even watching reality shows, I feel like a sickness.
Yeah. So they're saying like it's wrong for you to just listen to secular music because some of it talks about hoes. Meanwhile, you're working as a poker girl, which is basically an escort from my understanding, in a club. So this is the issue that I have. It's not the fact that, they did. I don't think working as a poker girl is wrong. I don't think drinking is wrong as long as you're, not abusing substances. I don't think listening to secular music is wrong. The problem I have is that they're presenting themselves as one way on their podcast as though they don't do any of these things. And meanwhile, they're actually doing it in their real life. This is the issue, is that it's extremely hypocritical. They're saying one thing, painting this picture of themselves online that's not backed up in their real life. And not only that, but they're telling other women that they shouldn't be doing these things, the same things that they're doing.
And we realized what God was doing and what was being created. Whereas before that, like, we didn't know. We didn't know we were in ministry yet. We didn't know what this meant. We didn't know that we were going to have a platform, and so there was like carelessness, and there was, so anyways, in that video that I'm talking about, I made a joke that is just like ridiculous, and it's, not honoring to God, obviously. And yeah, so I think for me, and then there's another thing about this specific video that people have asked me if I'm not sober in this video. And this is like the most important part about this entire thing for me, because I just want to make it very clear that I am 5 years sober, period. Over 5 years sober. Today, or this year in Thanksgiving, I will be 6 years sober from alcohol completely. Never drank one time. In that video, not drunk, not high, not on anything. Provocative and like lusty in the way that I was speaking, absolutely not on anything. And so like that's really, really important for me to address, because that's everything to me. You know what I mean? So, and I just want to talk to you.
Again, I mean, it definitely could be the case that she wasn't, but just looking at it, that's not what it looks
No,
like. Really.
like, again, their fans are pretty young. They might have not hung out with people who are drunk, but like that is how people act when they're drunk. That's how people act. Like, they laugh, the way that her eyes look. I mean,
She's slurring her
words. Yeah, it's like, it's a very, very obviously drunk looking thing. It'd be very strange if she ever acted like that and when she's not drunk.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that for the people who are mostly teenagers who watch them and might not know.
You guys so incredibly plainly that like I've spent the last week just trying to make sense of my own story, of being like, because it is true. I started Girls Gone Bible and there was still so much that needed to be removed, and there was so much of me that was still so unsanctified. And it's hard. It's so hard to be faced with your past, but that it feels like it's also somewhat tied to the present. Like, this specific situation is just incredibly difficult because it's tied to the thing that means more than anything to me in the world other than Jesus. So I've just been trying to make sense of my own story, and, I want to tell you guys a little story. I shared a very small part of this on stage on tour, but I think it's really important to let you guys into my heart with this, because the truth is, like, yeah, and you guys know this, came from the world, never even imagined walking in purity a day in my life. I had gone to this little place in Arizona. It's basically this garden, and it's like the life of Jesus, and it takes you through these little stations. And I'm going through this garden, and I'm by myself, and I'm in there, and I'm praying, and I'm walking around this garden, and I get to the end, and it's this fountain, and it's like the fountain of the Father, and it's like an octagon basically, and on every side there's like a different virtue of God. It's like love, grace, forgiveness, and I'm walking around it, and then I get to this one little part of it, and it says patience, and I realize like patience is a virtue of God that we don't really focus on, you know what I mean? Like, we don't really talk about how patient God really is. And I'm sitting there reflecting on how patient, truly patient God has been with me and with you and with every single other person. Like, so patient, so full of grace. Like, this is true grace. And so I'm thinking about how patient he is, and I'm trying to connect to him. And this is right after whatever, I see the video, and I'm just like, I'm like anxious, but I'm a little angry. But more than anything, I have so much shame. And I shared this on stage where I said I've been preaching about redemption and about being washed by the blood of Jesus, and about being cleansed by God for the past 2 years, and a few years before that, without ever truly receiving that in my heart. Because it's not until you're faced with the past that it's like revelatory. It's something that you need to receive. Like, grace is something you need to receive. It's an understanding of the grace of God that you can't just, because none of us can make sense of it. And I realized, I hadn't truly received the fact that God could have that grace from me. And so I'm having a conversation. I'm having a conversation with Jesus, and I'm just like, I just need you. I really need you. I really need you. And I just have so much shame, a mountain of shame that I can't get to him. I feel it whenever I'm trying to connect to Jesus and there's something between us. I feel it. And he's and I'm move it, remove whatever's between us, remove whatever's hindering us right now. I need you. I need to get to you. And I hear him so gently being then be honest with me. And I'm just move it, remove the shame, just remove the shame, remove it. I just want to get to you. And he keeps repeating to me, then be honest with me, then be honest with me. And I see that video in my head, and I see myself, and I literally go, I hate her.
Yeah.
I hate her. I hate that girl. I don't want anything to do with her. I absolutely hate that girl. And I feel God press in on my heart and be I love that girl.
Yeah.
I love that girl.
So right after addressing this in very little detail, or a way that's not particularly convincing, she goes into a story that she had with someone that no one else can possibly corroborate, that no one else can see, that no one else can consult, and says, and who, by the way, has complete divine authority and perfect knowledge, and says, you know what? It's okay. You don't need to worry about that. Come on. I mean, I'm sure, there are a lot of Christians that are actually upset about this and have said, hey, you guys are way too early on in your walk with Christ to be discipling. You're way too early on as Christians to be in leadership, which,
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely fair and valid.
Probably are a lot of their fans that are seeing this video and being oh, I can't believe you did that. You were so provocative. Da, da, da.
Yeah. And I mean, any of them could speak to Jesus and they might report something totally different. They think, based on their understanding of God, that what Ari is doing, what Ari and Angela are doing with Girls Gone Bible is wrong.
Yeah.
I mean,
because they're women preaching and you're not supposed to do that.
Well, no, not even necessarily that, but because they, for valid reasons, they obviously don't know what they're talking about. They obviously are making tons, crazy money doing this, hundreds of thousands of dollars each, obviously. And they started being Christians and instantly became celebrities, overnight. It's super political, and it's kind of sexual. And obviously this is a problem in certain Christians' view. I'm just saying, again, to the young fans of Girls Gone Bible, can you corroborate this story? Can you ask God, and can God tell you that this actually happened? I mean, from what I can tell, Ari basically didn't read it.
It's Angela.
Basically, Angela barely addresses the video and then tells you, well, I personally talked to a person that you can't consult on this, God, that told me it's okay. She's that's really convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's a good argument for why it's okay that she did this or why you should forgive her, she should be able to make that without appealing to someone that you can't check in with.
Yeah. And also notice how she's twisting this into being about shame and her feeling ashamed and people shaming her for her past mistakes, when that's not in our video. Jenny and I said several times that we don't think that the video of Angela is wrong. We don't see that as bad. The only reason that we see it as an issue is because, like we stated, they had a Christian podcast where they were preaching the complete opposite of what they were doing in the video. It's the hypocrisy of it that's the problem. And I don't know if they watched my response or my video, or if they just saw Jenny's TikTok. I'm not sure why they're addressing this now. I'm assuming that they watched my video about it, because they're addressing it right after I made my video.
Yeah.
But like they would know if they watched my video that that's not the issue that we have.
Yeah.
And it's almost like they're purposely twisting it into being something that they can easily defend and not addressing anything else. She can easily defend herself against like us saying, like shaming her, which is not the case. But she can't so easily defend herself against the other numerous allegations.
Yeah. This is a classic tactic that a lot of very public, like Christian celebrities have done. And when I say Christian celebrity, I mean people that make a lot of money being Christian in public. Like people, when we were Christians, we thought we're bad people.
Yeah.
You know, like people like Franklin Graham, someone like Kenneth Copeland, like Peter Popoff, like people who go on TV and give these big, like, Benny Hinn, give these big sermons and do like faith healing stuff. And then when they're called out, they say, oh, you're just persecuting me. They reframe the entire thing. And then they say, I've actually talked to Jesus about this and he says it's okay. So I don't have to care what you or what the police say. I mean, it's just, this has been an established like Christian celebrity scam artist tactic for decades, if not longer.
I see Girls Gone Bible as the new era of televangelists.
Yeah.
Because they're doing the exact same thing. It just happens to be on social media and not television.
Yeah.
But just like imagine a pastor or a televangelist who is every day getting up to the pulpit and preaching about purity and not engaging in sexual activity outside of marriage. And then you come to find out that he has multiple mistresses.
Yeah.
And then his immediate thing is to say, oh, you were shaming me and I talked to God and God loves that person that did those bad things, and like doesn't apologize, doesn't take accountability, doesn't address how this has harmed other people. What would you guys think? Because obviously this isn't as extreme as a pastor as having mistresses, but I think the analogy still holds that they're not taking any like accountability for this. This is like the easiest way for them to twist the narrative so that they can get out of it. And when we're talking about the money aspect, they have 5 separate ad reads, sponsored ad reads for this one video where they're like addressing the allegations.
48 minutes, there's 5 ad reads.
That I've never seen a podcast have that many ad reads in my life. Like the next one that would rival that is Ali Beth Stuckey, and I think she does 2 or 3 per episode, which I think is ridiculous.
All right, I'm gonna assume that they're getting the same ad rates that I get on my videos. And
I would say probably a little bit less because their views are not as great.
Well, I would actually think they probably reach a lot more because they distribute this audio only. And
the audio.
So I'm just gonna assume, I think it's actually very charitable to them that I like assume that they're getting the same rates as me. And so that would mean that they would be probably off of this one video without anything else, merch, ad revenue, just those sponsorships. That would mean that they would be making a minimum of $20,000 on ad reads,
which is insane.
On a video where they're taking accountability and like
being transparent.
Yeah, being transparent. I mean, making $20,000 on an apology video, basically. That's not really even an apology.
Yeah.
And then come on.
There's nothing wrong with taking sponsorships. So clearly, we take sponsorships, and the standard is you have 1 sponsor per video. Having 5 is very unusual.
I mean, I would not be surprised if they're clearing above 50 on this, but like 20, I feel like is pretty charitable.
Yeah, it's just insane. And especially if this is supposed to be a video of you taking accountability and kind of like an apology video, it's kind of like standard practice within YouTube that you don't put sponsors on that. And sometimes people like demonetize it so that they can't be accused of making money off of it. That's kind of like standard practice.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but like clearly there is a financial incentive here to act like Girls Gone Bible just wants to like help women and get them closer to God, and it's a ministry. Be so for real. Like that is clearly there's like a financial incentive with it. Like that's so obvious. And Jenny like mentioned in our video that like both Angela and Ari in their like social media bios, one of the first things that's listed is their manager's booking information.
Yeah.
Like this is about influencing. This is about being celebrity, like a celebrity.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. Clearly.
Obviously.
Like why else would they do the Trump rally?
Yeah. I mean, okay. We say this coming from your dad, missionary pilot, flying people around that need medical care.
People
You're doing like really serious stuff,
like
making sure
actual ministry
like
work.
saving people's lives, you know, like taking them to school so they could learn how to read. Like that's great. What my family did was open up orphanages and take in hundreds of orphans. My dad was like basically the legal caretaker for like 200 orphans in Mexico by the time he was 23. And he didn't make any money doing it. I mean, that is ministry. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And like Jenny said, I've never heard them talking about the needy, the poor, like the marginalized. I've never heard them talking about that in their podcast. And like, that's what ministries do. Ministries help people that are in need. They don't like make videos and I mean, maybe they make videos, but they're not like a media company.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Anyways, moving on.
I didn't reject her, and so you can't reject her either. You've spent all this time running as fast as you can away from this girl, trying to change yourself so much so that we could forget about her and pretend that she never existed. But that's not how it works. He's like, you've been distancing yourself from that girl, and that's not the love of God. Yeah. The love of God distances itself from nothing. And so I'm sitting there being like, but I don't understand. Like, how can you love that girl? How can you possibly love that girl? And I just feel him speaking to me being like, because she needed me. Like, that's the girl who needed me. That's the girl that was broken. That's the girl that I died for. I don't just love you now that you do everything right and you don't swear and you walk in purity and you don't dress immodestly. Like, I loved her. And her greatest fear was abandonment. And that's exactly what you've done to her. You've abandoned her. And I'm just like, this is the grace of God. Like, it is offensive grace. People can look at me and look at that video and look at anything, look at my Instagram 2 years ago and be like, how could God possibly bless that girl? How could God possibly give that girl favor? And it's like, it's offensive. Like, the grace of God is offensive. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, talking about like going back and looking at her Instagram, the issue with that is that it's not that she was like posting these things prior to starting Girls Gone Bible. The problem is that she was like both her and Ari were posting pictures of themselves wearing outfits that for most evangelicals are not considered modest. Obviously, we don't care.
Yeah, we do not care about that.
And they were also on their podcast talking about modesty. I think their episode on modesty is like their 5th episode.
Yeah.
So they were talking about it really early on. And so this isn't about us like shaming you. The issue is like, why did you guys start this podcast? Like, there's weirdness here because it doesn't seem like you're super familiar with the evangelical environment that you've put yourself in. Doesn't seem like you really know what the culture is. And that's what is leading people to think, did you start this because of genuine faith?
Yeah.
Or did you start this because you saw it as an opportunity to make money? And like most people, when they convert to Christianity, they don't immediately go and start a podcast. Like, and when I say immediately, I'm pretty sure Ari became a Christian or like rededicated her life to Christ because they were both brought up Christian, but like really got serious about their faith like a month before they started the podcast, because like that's kind of like what the timeline seems to add up. And it's clear, especially with Ari, that she doesn't, in the first few episodes, she, you know, obviously isn't super, like she doesn't know how to pronounce the word hymns. She calls them hymns, like clearly like she's learning.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you don't become a Christian and then like immediately not only prop yourself up as mentors to other Christians, which in my opinion, I don't think that you should do that when you're not educated about Christianity or the Bible to the level that you probably should be. But you're not only doing that, you're like making money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the most famous like Christian influencers in the world now.
Editing Taylor here, so I did want to make another just remark about this whole discussion of them kind of propping themselves up as mentors and leaders in Christianity. There was actually a recent video on George Janko's channel, and if you guys remember, Girls Gone Bible has collaborated with George Janko in the past, and George Janko used to be on, I think, the Logan Paul show, but then decided to do his own thing because he became a Christian, and then he interviewed Jordan Peterson, which kind of made his channel blow up because, of course, anyone who interviews right-wing grifters, they're kind of guaranteed to blow up their channel because of that. And since then, he's really marketed himself as kind of like this Christian influencer. And George just made a video featuring a bunch of different Christian creators. I think it was him and like Ruslan KD and just a bunch of like the well-known conservative Christian influencer grifters, because I personally think that they're grifting. And Girls Gone Bible, both Angela and Ari, were part of this big video with a bunch of different Christian influencers. And they titled this video, The Christian Avengers. So they're actively out here marketing themselves basically as the superheroes of Christianity. So when I say that they're putting themselves in these leadership positions and positions of authority and power, they literally are. Like, they are literally calling themselves Christianity superheroes. Like, you can't get more on the nose than that. And that's the problem with this entire thing, is that it's not just that they're trying to show the authentic journey of somebody who just recently became born again and sharing their experiences with being new Christians. They're actively positioning themselves as authority figures that other Christians should listen to, despite the fact that they don't have the experience or education to be doing so.
I want to be really clear. She's reframing this as if people are saying what you were was so disgusting and how could God love you? Which that's never been anything that anyone that's been critical of her is actually saying. I mean, not us. Maybe there were like Christian misogynistic men that were saying that, but like we're not saying that. Jenny was never saying that. We're saying, no, you're being hypocritical right now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about your past. It's about right now.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But that's who he is. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I'm clearly on a journey. I really am. And I think the temptation in all of this is to be like, why would God allow this? You know, like, he's supposed to protect you. And I've asked him, I've spent the last 2 years reading my Bible in my house, watching sermons, not tolerating sin. Why? Like, why can't you protect me? And I recognize that it is the kindness of God for something like this to happen, because I am experiencing his love in a way that I never would have, because I realize, like, I've had it wrong. You don't just start doing things right and then you receive God's love. And yeah, and so I say all that to say, I want clarity with you guys. Like, I know the call of anybody in ministry. I know why pastors fall.
Again, I'm sorry, but you're not, this is not a ministry.
No.
As we said, we come from ministry backgrounds. Yeah, we're not Christians anymore, but we're extremely familiar with that culture. We grew up in it. I'm a missionary kid. You come from a family of missionaries. We know what ministry looks like, and having a podcast is not a ministry.
Yeah.
Sorry, you do not get to like co-opt that term, because that just really pisses me off.
That's crazy.
Because there's so many, like Bryce Crawford, the one guy we responded to.
Yeah.
Ashley Hetherington does the same thing.
George Jenkins.
These like Christian influencers who, like, their job is influencing. Their job is posting videos and posting on social media, and they call themselves like ministers, or like they're in ministry. And I'm like,
Yeah.
When in Christianity did that become what ministry is? Like, the Trump Christianity has really brain rotted a whole generation of people when they think that this is what Christianity is.
I mean, I would say that, like, I think that you can do a kind of ministry through like online channels and things like that. It's possible to reach people in this way. This is how a lot of people socialize now, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, doing this celebrity thing where you're like talking to Logan Paul and like on your podcast where you are going and having like weird like fake church services where you're becoming a celebrity, it's not work, it's not ministry, it's not deep, it's the shallowest thing you can possibly do, and it's the most easily monetizable type of content you can possibly make. I mean, there's someone that I personally definitely don't agree with on the vast majority of things, but I would say like what he's doing is a lot closer to ministry, and that would be like inspiring philosophy. He has a larger, I guess, YouTube channel, but he's like getting a doctorate degree so that he can like, I don't agree with the things that he does when he's trying to like educate people, but he's digging deeply into things. He's trying to equip people to like argue for their faith, and it's clear that he has a very earnest dedication to actually trying to educate people according to what he believes, is properly educational. And I mean, it's clear to me, it's like he's not making tons of money doing this.
Yeah.
He gets by, I guess. But that seems like, if you want to look at like what that might look like, even someone I disagree with, look at like inspiring philosophy.
Well, I guess I should clarify. I'm not saying that you can't have a ministry and like post on social media. What I mean to say is that if that is all you're doing, if all you're doing is posting on social media and there's no further ministry attached to that, and there's no like, here's, a fundraiser for people that are in need. Like if there's nothing like that that's also attached to it, or larger things that you're doing, then that's not a valid ministry. You're just posting online. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I know why these things happen. I don't believe in incongruency between who you are on a public platform and who you are in private. When ministers of the gospel, when people in general, anybody detaches themselves from their public persona, from who they are really in private, like that's why bad things happen. And so
Sorry to pause this again so early, but if you don't believe in being incongruent and you believe who you are on your podcast is who you should be in real life, then why not address all of the allegations?
Yeah.
Why not clarify whether or not you were poker girls or not? Because if you have a podcast where you're shaming other women for being immodest and being impure, and you're working as a poker girl at the same time, that is like the definition of incongruency.
Yeah.
And again, there's nothing wrong with being a poker girl. More power to you. I think that's great for women that are in that line of profession, but you can't say one thing out one side of the mouth and say something completely different outside of the other.
Yeah.
Why not address that? Like, why only address like one in, like we've talked about, like they don't address any of the other allegations.
Yeah.
If you want to not be incongruent, like address everything.
Why not address the allegation that you are refusing to seek justice for a victim of sexual assault, given that you worked with the perpetrator of the alleged event? Like, why are you not trying to talk about seeking justice for victims? Why not address the allegation that when people have raised these things to you in your private life, you have refused to discuss it? Like, if that was what you did in your private life, make it public, talk about it, but you're not doing it. You're refusing to do it. So again, this is hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I'm here to let you guys know, like, I'm here for full clarity, full transparency, full honesty for the rest of the life that I have a mic in my face. Like, that's what it's going to be. And I just want to give you guys clarity on the evolution of Girls Gone Bible. Like, when we first started, I was not right yet. I wasn't. And again, I've been trying to make sense of my story for the past few days and being like,
sorry to pause it again so soon, but okay. You're saying you weren't right yet. What does that mean? Like, that's just like a vague statement. That could mean anything from, oh, you used to wear tank tops to you were working as a poker girl.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she's being purposely vague.
And again, I mean, she's putting the focus on the past. I don't care what you did in the past. I care what you're doing right now, and not actually giving any kind of real apology, addressing the much more serious allegation of the way that you treated your fans. I mean, the video, the poker girl stuff, the hypocrisy surrounding that is one thing for me. And it's like, that's like unsavory. But treating your
Emotionally
fans this way.
manipulate fans.
Yeah, I mean, that's disgusting. And you have done this, as far as I can tell, the allegations, this would have happened well after the 4th episode.
Right.
Well after you got right. So again, let's talk about right now, what you're doing right now. Not the past. It's not the past. To their fans, they are redirecting and reframing this conversation so it's easier for them to say that they haven't done anything wrong or that you should forgive them. They're not talking about the actual things that they've done wrong, and it's purposeful.
Right.
How? Because you hear people's stories, how they get touched by God, and then everything changes. They throw out their wardrobe, they stop having sex, and I'm like, why wasn't that my story? And it's just like a lack of discipleship, a lack of community. I'm experiencing like the move of God, the power of God, while not actually having anybody to look to, no accountability. You go to church in LA, everyone's kind of doing the same thing. So it's just, yeah.
I went through the same thing of feeling so inadequate and not feeling like I can even come to faith because I didn't feel like I was worthy enough. And then, you sit down and you think about your journey, and he loved us through all those moments when we were sitting in sin, where we were a mess, where we were broken, where we didn't know better. It's so funny when you look at our journey, he put us two together, and then we're like learning and we're like growing, and then he puts us in this, and then we start meeting people, and like we did this together. And if I didn't like, I would have been acting the same way if we didn't meet all those people. Like you really do need people to help. You need community. You need, like you said, you can't be the holiest one in your group because how will you learn?
Yeah, totally.
All I know is
I think the saying that starting this podcast was just God's will and that it was just God's doing, it really makes it to where they don't actually have to be accountable for the obvious things that are involved here that we're talking about. I mean, is it God's will? Did God make you put 5 sponsor reads in this apology video? Or
God really want you to make 20 grand off of this?
yeah, bare minimum. I mean, really, like you are an active participant in this. You are a part of this. You are making decisions. Whether you believe God has a hand in it or not, you are still framing this as if this is not something that you actively decided to do. And again, to their young fans, that is a narrative that is very convenient for abusers to use. I mean, I used to believe that God directed my life, and that never led me to making excuses for the bad things that I did.
Yeah.
Or saying that, well, God just led me in this way, and, some bad things happened along the way, but you really should forgive me because it was really God's doing, not mine. No, I mean, people can believe this about God directing their life and be great people, fantastic people. We know them.
Yeah.
People in our lives believe this and they're good. They would never do this stuff. But this is also very convenient storytelling for abusers.
Well, and then also she's saying the whole thing about there's certain things that they didn't know they weren't supposed to do or they didn't have completely right yet until they started interacting with people, is kind of what she's saying, right? Like there were things that when we started Girls Gone Bible, we were still doing, and it wasn't until we had accountability from other people and we're talking to other people that we changed those things. That doesn't really make any sense considering in your 2nd episode of Girls Gone Bible that's talking about dating and relationships, you specifically talk about how you're not supposed to live with your partner until you're married. And then your 5th episode, which is really early on, is talking about modesty. It's like you did know that these were things that you were supposed to do. Again, I don't think that you're supposed to do that.
I don't care
I'm
if you
not
or
not. So you're saying these things on your podcast, and now you're saying, oh, well, we didn't know we were supposed to do that. Like nothing is adding up. Like none of this is adding up. And this is why we think that you're grifters.
Yeah.
It's because your stories are not matching.
Yeah.
we can sit in front of people and we can look in their eyes and be like, me too.
Mm-hmm.
And people,
Totally.
we would not have reached the people. Like, he really does work everything out for our good.
It is so interesting being on a sanctification journey in front of people. It's like, usually you do these things in hiddenness and in private, and you know what I mean?
That's what it is.
And so it's the most vulnerable thing I think you can go through. And
Okay, if you're on a sanctification journey and you're honest about that, then you need to address the other allegations that are like actually serious. They're about actually victimizing and manipulating your fans, who are probably young women younger than you with less power, money, wealth, influence than you.
Yeah.
That is what needs to be sanctified. Your actions that you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's not about you wearing something that's a little too skimpy. No, taking accountability is acknowledging when you've messed up or hurt people, apologizing for that, and trying to figure out how you can rectify the situation.
Yeah.
It's not just being like, oh, well, I'm being sanctified, so you can't be like upset with me.
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry that we are so like, we're not usually this animated in videos, but it's just like, this has really just made me really upset.
Well, I think what's really interesting for me is like, I never realized how much shame that I had. Like, I really didn't. But then I realized, like, how I always say, I always feel like God's a little mad at me. Like, that's shame.
Yeah,
It's your own
that's what
voice.
I feel.
Yeah, it's shame. It's your own voice. And the past, like,
God isn't mad at you. The women that you've hurt are mad.
Yeah, and you actually should feel bad about that.
Yeah,
That's normal.
you should
when
feel
you've
bad.
done something wrong.
weak. It is the most incredible thing. I don't have that voice when I sit down to talk to Jesus. Like, literally, it's so weird. Something that should make me feel so powerless. Like, I'm not powerless in this. It's insane.
Yeah.
And like, I guess what I would encourage anybody listening is just to understand, like, the ways of God. He's unbelievable.
I know.
He's unbelievable.
It's like those moments. It's the moments where we're the most broken and scared is when he's like right there.
It's just like, I have developed a trust in Jesus that transcends truly any human understanding because it transcends my own circumstance. Like, it's just like weird that the unthinkable happens, like something that you don't want to happen, and then to be able to see the goodness of God in it and it not be a cliche. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way that God does things. Oftentimes, like, when something looks bad, sometimes God allows bad things to happen to produce something good in you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so true.
Okay, some of the good that you're enjoying off of this is like tens of thousands of dollars in ad reads. I mean, come on, you are producing the good that you're seeing here. Like, regardless of whether or not God is involved, you're making crazy money off of this like fake apology video where you're spinning these narratives that make you look better.
Yeah.
I mean, like, come on, this is absurd.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to benefit from this because you're in a niche online where it's really easy to commodify things. It's really easy to make money, and it's really easy to escape accountability. I mean, that's why it's like all good for you right now.
If you think about the way that they've made money, it's all been around this like one story. Like, they have a couple stories that they tell. It's like their testimonies. And that kind of is like the basis for their entire podcast. Yeah, they talk about other things, but like, it's just like these narratives. And then they come out with a book. And what's in the book? More of the same story. And then there's like a part where like the reader is supposed to fill in their thoughts about it. And then what do they do during their world tours when they're on stage?
Tell the
They
same
tell a
story.
story. It's like they're trying to squeeze as much cash as they can out of this like one thing that they've got going.
Yeah.
We just come on here to say, like, this is true, raw transparency. Like, and because I'm sure people have even been confused with just modesty stuff. And if you watch our episodes, you'd understand. If you know us, you understand. It's been a journey. It's
been such a journey. And the one thing I always say is you guys really have been like riders for us. Like, you guys have been on this with us. And the one thing we always talk about is how you guys have given us so much grace. I can't believe how much unmerited grace you've given us through this.
Yeah, totally. And I'm just like, but there are people that are confused. And
yeah, of course.
And I just want to be clear that it's been such a journey for us since the beginning, and like, we have been really transparent, but it's also confusing.
It is.
For people who see old.
No, we're not confused. Again, they're focusing on one little narrow bit that they feel like they can get away with talking about.
Yeah.
But no, like, we're not confused. We're actually quite confident that you're not addressing the actual allegations that are more serious.
Yeah.
Like, you're saying this is radical transparency. Okay, you're not addressing any of those allegations? Why not talk about that? Probably because your lawyers have told you that you shouldn't.
And it doesn't, like, even if they hadn't for some reason seen my video, which I'm pretty sure this is why they came out with this episode, is because of my video, because it came out right after I put out my video. But even in Jenny's original TikTok, and she was the one that first broke basically the video of Angela and broke a lot of the initial stories in her TikTok, if they saw that, they would know that it wasn't limited just to that one video of Angela.
Yeah.
Like, Jenny spends more time talking about the, poker girl thing and then the stories of multiple women. So it's like, that there's more to address and you're purposely not. And you're just
And then
like,
you're calling that radical transparency.
yeah. Like, I don't understand. If you never worked as poker girls while doing the podcast, why not just say that?
Yeah.
Like, or if you didn't do these things to these women, why not just say that?
If you
like, there's
didn't
no reason you're not
purposely-
saying it.
If you didn't purposely get a woman in legal trouble so that she would stop bothering you about trying to hold you accountable, then you should just say that.
Yeah, like those would be things that would be easily defensible.
Yeah.
So, like, why aren't you?
Photos of us from, while we were making episodes and all that stuff. It's so confusing.
It is confusing. He did it on purpose. He did. And I know that. He did it all on purpose. He did it so we could all grow together.
So now you're saying that all of these allegations that have come out, that's God's purpose. God's doing that to make you guys better.
Yeah.
Huh? So now you're spinning this into being like, this is what God wants.
I mean, if this is really God's true purpose, like he wants you to face the allegations to make you better, then face the allegations that are more serious.
Yeah.
Like, you only talked about the video. Come on. God's waiting. Let's go.
But there are times where I used to look back at the episodes and I was like, why did I say that?
Mm-hmm.
But then I'm like, we wouldn't be Girls Gone Bible if we didn't. Like, this is the whole point. We're girls of the world and we relate to people, and I'm proud of us. We used to be girls of the world, and
Yeah.
I can't help but just feel so proud of you and proud of myself, and I know Jesus is proud of us, and all we can do is we know how we are now, and I know it's so confusing.
I mean, I think that there's maybe some merit or nothing really wrong with having a podcast where you're just trying to be more real or showing your journey in the very beginning stages. Like, I think there is something positive I think people could take from that. But the thing is like, that's not only what you're doing. You're not just like, putting these videos of, I learned this about the, Christianity today, or I learned this about, this verse. Like, you're not doing just that. You're also like discipling and mentoring other women, which if you know that you're not educated enough or don't really know enough about this, then you probably shouldn't be putting yourself in a leadership position.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that you like jumped from like day one, I became a Christian, and day two, okay, now I'm a leader in Christianity.
Yeah. I mean, you also went from like basically not being a Christian to being a Christian who makes a lot of money for being a Christian, and has a bunch of allegations against you for like abusing your power and manipulating your fans. And then you don't address that. And you say that we're just being real.
Yeah.
No, you're not. This is clearly not real. You're the fakest person out here. I mean, you're a celebrity who's not facing allegations of abusing people.
And doing the stereotypical celebrity thing of trying to obfuscate from the situation.
Come on.
And I think that they know that their fans will see me and immediately be like, oh, she's an ex-Christian, so we don't have to listen to anything she says. Or they'll see Jenny and be like, oh, she's a progressive Christian, so we don't need to listen to anything that she says. And so they're able to get away with this because their fans are not going to actually look into it for themselves.
Yeah.
But I know how real we've been. We've been honest from the very beginning.
Totally.
Here it comes out.
I love that it's a BetterHelp sponsorship. Wow, that's awesome.
Oh, and
That's awesome.
that they have BetterHelp as a sponsor. I've talked about how both Angela and Ari have talked about multiple times on their podcasts that the only thing that can really treat mental health is God. Like, they'll talk about like therapy sometimes, but they've both like verbatim said, well, God is the only thing that can truly heal your mental health. And then their fans, in defense of me calling that out, point to the fact that they have BetterHelp sponsors. I'm like, first of all, them making money off of like talking about therapy is not the same as them advocating for therapy.
Yeah.
And secondly, BetterHelp is like notoriously problematic.
Yeah.
That almost makes it worse.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
obviously, they don't understand about, like, how therapy works if they're promoting BetterHelp.
That could not get crazier. That's hilarious.
I wanna jump to the very end, because I think Ari says something that I wanna make sure that I record.
It can sometimes feel really draining.
Yeah, we love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. You can expect full, complete, total honesty and transparency. And above all else, just understand that congruency matters to us incredibly more than anything. And so if we say one thing, I promise you we're living that way.
Yeah.
I promise you, if we say one thing, we are living that way.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So if they say one thing on their podcast, she promises that they're living that way. Okay, well, in the second episode of Girls Gone Bible about dating and relationships, you talk about how you shouldn't be living with your partner before marriage. And then at the beginning of this episode, you were talking about how you're on a journey and you admit that when you first started Girls Gone Bible, there were things that you hadn't gotten right in your life yet. And you kind of make this allusion to, why wasn't it my story that I started dressing modestly and stopped having sex?
Yeah.
Okay. So you said in a podcast episode, basically that you shouldn't have sex before marriage. I mean, like that kind of comes along with not living with your partner. Like that's why Christians, talk about not living with your partner, because they think sex before marriage is wrong. And now you're admitting that you were having sex while starting Girls Gone Bible.
Yeah.
So you're not actually doing what you're saying.
Also, you're saying if we say we're doing something, then we're doing it. And you're saying we're being radically transparent and totally honest. But you're not addressing any of the other allegations. You only talked about the video. That's it. You didn't talk about the majority of the allegations.
Yeah. The video was just one of like 7 separate allegations.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that's just a straight up lie. It's obviously a lie. As someone who, like, has experience looking at the history of Christian grift and believes that there's real, genuine Christians who really do mean well and are living out their faith, and I support what they're doing, like, this is so incredibly, it's just my opinion, obviously a grift. I've never seen a more obvious Christian grift besides for maybe Benny Hinn in my life.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know if there's anything else I had to say. I don't really know how to end this, but yeah, I mean, I think we've said it a million times. It's just, they're not addressing the bulk of the allegations, the worst allegations, and they're obviously being super vague and obfuscating from like the real issue here. And basically they're framing it as though Jenny is, other people are mad and shaming them about things that they did in their past, which we like obviously are not
doing.
It's the hypocrisy of it that we have a problem with. And they're spinning it into this like, oh, well, God told me it was okay. Like, oh, God loves me, so you guys all should love me too.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that, Angela has crocodile tears, because I don't know, maybe she really is crying, but I do find the constant crying a little bit off-putting too, because it seems very well timed. And
they're actresses.
They're actresses. Like, we need to bear that in mind. Like, there's so
obvious. Like,
there's so many different like things that are not adding up here that point to it being a grift. The fact that they're actresses, the fact that they started this podcast like literally like the day after they became Christians. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but like right after it, they immediately started like monetizing it and tried to make money off of it. They spoke at a Trump rally. They've like manipulated fans and like blocked fans when they gave them any sort of pushback at all. They work with pastors that have sexual harassment allegations against them. Like there's so many pieces here where like, and the whole fact of like, they got into this before it seemed like in their private life, they weren't living out their faith. They weren't living according to an evangelical. They're kind of still doing their same thing, but like preaching on their podcast that other women shouldn't do that. Like there's so many parts to this that just like make it seem like this is fraud. This was like a grift. Like obviously we can't say that with absolute certainty. I'm not in their minds. I'm not in their immediate vicinity. I don't know for sure, but I think people having questions about your sincerity makes sense. And guys should understand why it makes sense that people are so not only confused, but like concerned and think everything is really suspicious when there's all these things that have led people to have that conclusion. Like, I think that would be obvious to you.
Okay, to close out, on a scale from 1 to 10 sponsor reads, how obvious do you think this is a grift?
I think it's definitely 10 sponsor reads.
Wow, 10 out of 10 sponsor reads. That's only 2 episodes worth of sponsor reads.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and a huge thank you to my patrons who help make these videos possible. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my Instagram is Taylor_the_antibot. And if you'd like to consider supporting this channel financially, a link to my Patreon will be down in the description, and I'll see you on the next one. Say bye.